Today, the imperial palace guards entered the prince's residence and took away my followers. How could I not have been informed about this? Yusu Xian replied nonchalantly. Speaking of which, it seems that there is such an incident. Most of the followers in the prince's residence are talented individuals, especially with the reputation of Taoist Master Chui's Sky In Mountain White Jade True Taoist. Even I have heard of him. Cultivators at the 5-layer celestial cycle stage are rare to find in the Qin Empire. With their help, the refining of celestial Dan will surely be more successful. Young Master Saki was surprised in his heart. Even his own followers rarely know the identity of Taoist Master Chui. Unexpectedly, this enchantress is aware. Could it be that she has investigated his background? Yusu Xian said again. It is said that the imperial prince is proficient in music. Coincidentally, I also enjoy this art. How about the imperial prince teaches me how to play the guqin? Young Master Saki said solemnly. Are you humiliating me? Yusu Xian coquettishly said, Imperial Prince, why do you speak like this? I am just sincerely seeking guidance. Who knows, if I am in a good mood, I might let you go. Young Master Saki remained silent for a long time and asked, Are you really going to let him go? Yusu Xian replied, If today Imperial Prince teaches the Qin, I will let White Jade True Taoist leave the palace with you. Young Master Saki heard these words. She then wanted to call a maid to bring another Yaoqin, but she realized at this moment that within the graceful Heart Palace there was not a single maid, only herself and Yusu Xian. Yusu Xian said behind the curtain, Imperial Prince, feel free to enter the tent. This Qin of mine is the phoenix tail from among 10 Qins. How could an ordinary Qin have such a sound? Young Master Saki felt cautious at first, but then realized that both he and she were women, so there was nothing to fear. He then spoke up. All right, then I will enter the tent. Yusu Xian was stunned this time. She didn't expect young Master Saki to come in so easily. Was it because he was really innocent, or because he had already set his sights on her, and couldn't wait for this to happen? Young Master Saki sat in front of the zither, gently plucking the strings. Yusu Xian placed the sheet music beside young Master Saki and leaned on him, sending flirtatious glances with her eyes. Just as young Master Saki was about to interrupt this overstepping action, suddenly, her mind felt heavy and foggy. The things in front of her became blurry. She reached out her hand towards the figure of Yusu Xian, which appeared layered in her eyes. Then, she blacked out and fell down. Yusu Xian embraced young Master Saki. He lifted her chin with his fingers, looked at her carefully, and said with a smile, I know you, virtuous prince, are not interested in women. If I wasn't prepared, I wouldn't have let you come near this incense burner burning with aphrodisiac scent. I'm not afraid that you won't be tempted. Yusu Xian then picked up young Master Saki and walked towards the bedroom, feeling puzzled. He wondered why young Master Saki's body was so light and nimble, like that of a woman. On the bed, Yusu Xian gently opened young Master Saki's shirt. But the scene before Yusu Xian made him angrily exclaim, Damn it! How can she be a woman? She originally wanted to seduce young Master Saki. Even if she couldn't seduce him, framing and trapping should still work. But what should be done now? Emperor Wu of Qin must also be aware that she is a woman. Yusu Xian looked at young Master Saki, whose eyes were tightly closed on the bed with a flushed face, and gritted her teeth, saying, Don't think I can't deal with you like this. Later, Yusu Xian called a maid over. He asked her to find a disgustingly ugly beggar. The more unkempt and repulsive, the better. The maid then left to fulfill the order. Inside the underground palace, Jiang Jewel looked around. He thought to himself, if what Taoist Master Chui said is true, it seems that many guests of the prince's residence have been arrested. But I haven't seen any of them on my way here, so they must not be locked up here. Enchantress Consort's direct search for me means she is targeting me specifically. If those guests have average relationships with me and recognize me, they might sell me out. Jiang Jewel dared not take the risk and pondered. He turned to a Taoist next to him and said, Excuse me, Taoist Master, I would like to exchange clothes with you. Is that fine? The unkempt Taoist master, upon hearing this unexpected offer, thought to himself, Jiang Jewel's silk outfit could fetch a good amount of money if pawned. So he hastily agreed to the exchange. A moment later, Jiang Jewel changed into the new clothes and politely said to the guards, I need to use the facilities. The guard impatiently instructed Jiang Jewel to hurry up and return quickly. Jiang Jewel arrived at the outhouse and was nearly overwhelmed by the overwhelming stench inside. But at the moment, he didn't have time to think about it. Jiang Jewel took out a Dan pill from his chest. He put it into his mouth and swallowed it down his throat. Jiang Jewel's body underwent rapid changes. His jet-black hair turned white at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his once young and taut skin became loose. At the same time, a foul smell began emanating from him. Jiang Jewel doesn't mind in his heart. Living without fear, what does a little dirt and smell matter compared to staying alive? Jiang Jewel finally felt relieved and came out of the outhouse. He thought to himself that even young Master Saki wouldn't recognize him like this, let alone those servants, who have only seen him a few times. While he was secretly pleased with himself, a voice suddenly came from behind. Stop right there, turn around. Jiang Jewel's body tensed up, and he turned around nervously. He grinned and asked, Are you calling me miss? The maidservant covered her nose in disdain and said, Shut up and follow me. At first, Jiang Jewel thought that the other party had sensed her identity, but to her surprise, the maidservant actually led her out of the underground palace. She realized that the other party must not know her true identity, otherwise she would have been tied up a long time ago. After a while, Jiang Jewel was led to outside a palace, and the maidservant glanced at her and said, Wait here. Without another word, she entered the palace. Jiang Jewel looked around and found that there was no one guarding the palace outside. She immediately realized that this was a good opportunity to escape. Just as she was feeling excited, suddenly, a spiritual sense swept out from inside the palace, falling on him. Jiang Jewel realized that his breath was being locked on by someone. The immense pressure made him feel a bit out of breath, with cold sweat instantly appearing on his face. A moment later, a soft laugh came from the hall. You have found an interesting person. Bring him over. The voice was charming and alluring, stirring up an unnamed fire in the hearts of men just by listening to it. Jiang Jewel was greatly surprised. What a powerful clip tone! This must be the enchantress consort. Fortunately, Yusu Xian did not recognize him. Just as Jiang Jewel was puzzled, the maid walked out from the hall and said to him, Follow me. Under the guidance of the maid, Jiang Jewel quickly arrived at a side hall. The maid pointed her hand and said, Go in. Jiang Jewel was about to say something. He was kicked in by the maid before he could say anything. Shortly after, Jiang Jewel heard the sound of the door being locked behind him, feeling puzzled about what was going on. At this moment, Jiang Jewel twitched his nose and couldn't help muttering, What's that smell so fragrant? After a moment, Jiang Jewel felt a rush of heat in his body, and his mind became heavy. Then Jiang Jewel's face changed abruptly. He quickly covered his mouth and nose, hurried to the side of the curtain, kicked over the purple gold incense burner, and exclaimed in shock, Could it be that the enchantress consort wants to pull me into bed? Just as Jiang Jewel was lost in his wild thoughts, a few groans came from the bed behind the curtain. Jiang Jewel was taken aback by the sound, thinking to himself, This voice sounds familiar. Afterwards, Jiang Jewel quietly approached and cautiously lifted a corner of the curtain. A woman wrapped in white cloth lay on the bed, with her straight black hair scattered around, revealing her snow-white shoulders. Jiang Jewel exclaimed in shock, Young master? Jiang Jewel couldn't care about etiquette, walked forward and carefully identified that the woman on the bed was indeed Chin Saki. However, at this moment, Chin Saki was in a very wrong state with her eyes tightly closed, in a state of unconsciousness. Her cheeks were flushed hotly, and from time to time, there were some intriguing gasping sounds coming from her mouth. Jiang Jewel remembered that on weekdays, Xianxia dressed in male clothing, so he had never realized that she was actually a beautiful woman. Jiang Jewel placed 2 fingers on Xianxia's neck and sensed that the poison she had been exposed to was very strong. Jiang Jewel saw that Xianxia was about to collapse. He gritted his teeth and said, "This enchantress consort is truly vicious. She set up a bewitching fragrance in this room, and even deliberately brought in a dirty and ugly beggar to defile her. Truly the most venomous woman's heart." Jiang Jewel looked at Xianxia and said with a bow, "Young master, everything I do next is all for the purpose of saving you. Please don't take offense even if I inadvertently offend anyone." After saying that, he got on the bed and helped Xianxia up, then continued, "I have a life-saving item on me that can break the current situation. However, before that, we need to unwrap the bandages on young master's body, take a drop of blood from his fingertip." Jiang Jewel reached out to unwrap the bandages on Xianxia's body as he spoke. Jiang Jewel struggled before finally unfastening the buckle. Just as Jiang Jewel was about to make the next move, Xianxia in one's arms, eyelashes trembling lightly. In a daze, she opened her eyes. She looked at Jiang Jewel with a look full of confusion. Xianxia made a slight movement, ready to sit up. The cloth on her body immediately slipped down her fragrant shoulders, exposing her beautiful snow-white body completely in front of Jiang Jewel. Jiang Jewel looked at Xianxia in disarray in front of him, and involuntarily lowered his gaze slightly. An untimely thought popped into his head. "So big! Does it not hurt when it's usually tied up?" Before Jiang Jewel could react, Xianxia suddenly threw himself into his arms. She then pushed Jiang Jewel down onto the bed. Jiang Jewel panicked and said, "Young master, this is not appropriate. Stay calm." Jiang Jewel wanted to continue saying something. Xianxia used his finger to cover Jiang Jewel's mouth. Then she reached out and started messing around on Jiang Jewel's body. As Xianxia's hand moved down, Jiang Jewel's pupils suddenly dilated, and he shouted loudly, "Wait, don't touch that!" Jiang Jewel quickly reached out and pushed Xianxia away. He said helplessly, "No matter what, I am also a man. If you keep doing this, I won't be human anymore." He looked at Xianxia lying on the bed. Jiang Jewel reached into his arms and pulled out a wax pill. Among them, you can see a strange bug resembling a scorpion and a snail. He said to Xianxia, "Young master, this is the goo poison from the Miao region that a friend gave me. When this goo matures, its toxicity is so strong that even a powerhouse at the 4-layer macrocosmic stage cannot resist it. However, when this goo is young, it can swallow all kinds of poison in the world. I offer this to young master as an antidote for emotional poison. However, if I were to use this goo, I need 1 drop of young master's blood to feed it in order to enter your body without harming the foundation of young master." After saying that, Jiang Jewel then struck a beam of spiritual power at the back of Xianxia's heart, causing his heart to shake violently. The originally confused and deluded mind. At this moment, it's just a brief moment of clarity. Xianxia has not had the chance to figure out his own situation. Just heard a familiar voice coming from behind. "Young master, please close your eyes and concentrate. I am here to save you. Don't think too much." Xianxia heard this voice and knew that the person behind him was Jiang Jewel, although he still had many doubts in his mind. But she trusted Jiang Jewel. She still closed her eyes. In the next moment, a drop of blood appeared on Xianxia's finger. Jiang Jewel shouted loudly, "Open your mouth." Xianxia immediately opened his mouth. Jiang Jewel casually placed the wax pill into Xianxia's mouth. After a moment, Xianxia felt the dizziness in his mind slowly dissipating. Xianxia slowly turned his head to look back. He found a shabby old man standing behind him, and was momentarily speechless. Jiang Jewel saw her reaction after it. He smiled and his luck changed back to his original appearance. Then he explained to Xianxia, "Something happened, so I disguised myself a bit. Xianxia saw that it was indeed Jiang Jewel. She had just taken a deep breath when she looked down and realized that she was standing naked and talking to Jiang Jewel at the moment. Then she remembered what had just happened, Xianxia's face gradually turning red and her whole body going numb as if she were petrified. Jiang Jewel felt that the atmosphere was not quite right, so she quickly waved her hand and said, "The situation is urgent. I had no choice but to do this. I hope young master can forgive me. Even if you are angry, please wait until we leave this place before seeking me out to hold me accountable." Xianxia dared not look at Jiang Jewel. She stuttered and said, "I know, it's not your fault, sir. Are you married?" Jiang Jewel was a little dumbfounded by Xianxia's question and took a while to come back to his senses. He awkwardly laughed and said, "After all, I am a cultivator and cannot easily fall in love." Xianxia asked seriously, "Sir, wasn't the goo detoxifying pill given to me by sir's beloved?" Jiang Jewel replied even more awkwardly, "That was just a joke. My sweetheart is only 8 years old this year." Xianxia nodded and seemed lost in thought with his head lowered. Jiang Jewel quickly urged, "Young master, it's dangerous here. Let's leave first and talk later." Xianxia smiled bitterly and said, "I don't have any strength left in my body. I'm afraid I can't even stand up. If you have a way, please leave first." "You don't have to worry about me," Jiang Jewel said. "I have my own way." With that, he offended young master, and immediately grabbed Xianxia's waist and lifted him up. Then Jiang Jewel took out a yellow talisman and chanted, "5 ghosts make way. 5 spirits shield my body." Swift. Soon after, a gust of wind rose, and the 2 figures disappeared without a trace. Xian was lying on a long chair in the graceful Heart Palace, lost in contemplation. The Blackback General of Jade Splendor River. "I haven't been able to get in touch for a long time. A few days ago, there was a flood at Jade Splendor River. Could it be that the old turtle is undergoing calamity crossing? How dare it? Without the enfeeblement of the human emperor, its karma alone is afraid that it has already vanished. Its death doesn't matter, but it has ruined my plans. Who else can help me catch people now?" Xian intended to attract a large number of refugees under the name of constructing Leopard House, and secretly capture a group of people, but was blocked by Grand Tutor Lin Xianfeng and Imperial Prince Xianxia joining forces. This time she wanted to use the guise of summoning Daoist An for refining to deal with that Xianxia, but who knew that Xianxia turned out to be a woman. However, she thought that at present, Xianxia is having a great time with a sloppy old man, which immediately lifted Xian's spirits. But at this moment, Xian felt a chill and sat up straight, surprised. Is this the God-inviting technique? She immediately noticed that the chill was coming from the direction where Xianxia was being held. In her heart, she wondered, could that beggar be a master? At the thought of this, Xian slapped the armrest with a fierce look on her face and shouted sharply, "Guards, come!" On the other side, inside the residence of Prince An, Jiang Jewel and Xianxia arrived here after leaving graceful Heart Palace. Jiang Jewel slowly placed Xianxia by the bed and said, "This is where I stay in the mansion. It should be safe here." Jiang Jewel finished speaking. He then turned around and bowed to the 5 spiritual lights around body and the 5 shadow mists outside body. He said gratefully, "Thank you all for your help. Please accept these small gifts as a token of my gratitude." Shortly after, a faint golden light emanated from Jiang Jewel's body, sending out a few strands that were divided by the 5 spiritual lights and 5 shadow mists. This object was the manifestation of Jiang Jewel's own merits. Xianxia looked at the divine technique displayed by Jiang Jewel in front of him. She admired in her heart, "Sir is truly a person of the divine technique." The God-inviting technique invites both the 5 deities and the 5 ghosts. They are all orthodox methods of divine invocation, but there is a cost to summoning these deities. He previously used Celestial Venerable of Profound Thunder Arts. to deal with the Blackback General and took away half of the Jiang Jewel's merit. Now, with 5 deities and 5 ghosts, some merit has been shared to send off, further leading to the biggest threshold of this technique being that only those with significant merit can practice this path. After sending off the 5 deities and 5 ghosts, Jiang Jewel spoke to Xianxia and said, "Since the young master is now safe, I shall take my leave first." Xianxia instinctively reached out and grabbed Jiang Jewel's sleeve. She whispered, "Sir, can you stay and accompany me for a while? I also want to exchange some information with you." Jiang Jewel was slightly taken aback, smiled and said, "All right, I don't have any other plans anyway." Then the two of them arrived at Xianxia's study. After a moment, Xianxia whispered, "According to the information Mr. Jiang provided, I need to write a letter. Please invite the current Grand Tutor, Lin Xianfeng, to the mansion for discussion. I will have my trusted subordinate deliver the letter to the Grand Tutor's mansion right away." Jiang Jewel spoke up, "Young master, let me handle this." Shortly after, Jiang Jewel unleashed a divine technique. A gust of wind came up, and the letter in Xianxia's hand disappeared. Seeing Xianxia's puzzled expression, Jiang Jewel said, "Young master, rest assured, the letter has now arrived in the hands of the Grand Tutor." Xianxia's cheeks turned slightly red as he said, I naturally trust Mr. Jiang." As the twilight fell and night deepened, Jiang Jewel accompanied Xianxia in the study until late into the night. Although the atmosphere was a bit awkward at first, Jiang Jewel didn't mind at the beginning. However, Xianxia, blushing and furtively stealing glances at him, made Jiang Jewel unable to resist. Jiang Jewel couldn't help but ask, "Young master, is there something you want to ask?" Xianxia turned back in panic and said, No, nothing." Xianxia regretted leaving Jiang Jewel behind in her heart. What should be done when a man and a woman are alone at this time? Just when Xianxia's mind was filled with thousands of thoughts, Jiang Jewel suddenly appeared behind Xianxia and softly asked, "Young master, are you really okay? Your face is so red." Xianxia looked nervously at the suddenly appearing Jiang Jewel and couldn't say a word. At this moment, a servant outside the door shouted, "Imperial Prince Grand Tutor Lin is here." Xianxia quickly said, Please come in, Grand Tutor Lin." The Jiang Jewel by his side immediately bowed and said, "Young master, then I will take my leave first." Xianxia hurriedly said, "Sir, there's no need for you to leave." Jiang Jewel said with a smile, firmly stating, "Each has their own strengths and weaknesses, young master. Please don't make things difficult for me." Jiang Jewel knew clearly that Xianxia would sooner or later confront Yusuxian. Maybe she had conspired with Grand Tutor Lin long ago. If he didn't leave now, he wouldn't be able to stay out of it in the future. Xianxia's eyes showed a hint of regret as she said, "Okay. Today has been tiring, sir. Please go rest." When Jiang Jewel exited the study, he saw someone walking quickly on the other side of the corridor. The approaching person is none other than the current Grand Tutor Lin Xianfeng. This is also the first time Jiang Jewel has met Grand Tutor Lin Xianfeng. He stepped aside and bowed to pay his respects. When Lin Xianfeng passed by Jiang Jewel, he nodded in greeting before walking past. Jiang Jewel looked up at Lin Xianfeng's departing figure, his eyes shimmering with a glint of light. He then let out a soft sigh, saying, "It's also a sign of short life." At night, inside the graceful Heart Palace in the Imperial Palace, Yusuxian asked with a fierce look on his face, "Did you say that old beggar was brought by you from the underground palace?" The servant kneeling below trembled and replied, "I dare not deceive my lady. The old beggar should have been captured in the palace in recent days. As long as the old beggar is still in Xianying City, he cannot escape. I have already sent someone to capture him." Yusuxian on the phoenix chair remained non-committal. She was also aware that since the person could escape from under her nose, it would not be easy to find him. "It seems that there are indeed many capable individuals around Xianxia," she said. "Forget it, let him run." Xianxia always cannot escape. The servant below immediately said, Your Highness, if Imperial Prince accuses the king of today's matter, Xian confidently said, then let her sue me. Since I dare to deal with her like this, I naturally have a way to control her. Xian thought of this. She asked, Have the people from Sky-Een Mountain been invited? The beautiful maid respectfully replied, They will arrive tomorrow. Xian continued to inquire. Lord of Heavenly Demons is looking for news about the Jiang Jewel. The beautiful maid immediately said, This matter will be reported to the mistress. I just found out from the guests at the residence of Prince and that after Imperial Prince had returned from Jade Splendor River, he had a new servant by his side. Few people know the specific name of this person, but everyone in the mansion refers to this person as Sir Jiang. It is said that Sir Jiang is also skilled in divination and fortune-telling. Xian raised an eyebrow and secretly thought, Could it be that the Lord of Heavenly Demons is looking for someone who is right next to Xianxia? Residence of Princeton, outside the mansion. The gatekeeper saw Jiang Jewel carrying large and small bags walking towards the residence of Princeton and asked, Good day, sir. What are you carrying? Jiang Jewel smiled and replied, I am going out to visit a friend. I will be back after finishing my business. The junior official looked at Jiang Jewel's attire, which seemed like he was about to flee. Memories of the servants who were invited to the palace before and never returned crossed his mind. The other servants at the mansion were also anxious, with some packing their belongings and leaving in the dead of night. Could it be that Sir Jiang is also planning to flee? But he remembered that the Imperial Prince had given instructions. He can't make things difficult for Sir Jiang, so he sighed and said, Please take care, sir, and let him go. Jiang Jewel arrived at a mountaintop outside the city. He was thinking how, ever since he crossed into this world, he had been cautious every step of the way. If he hadn't been so careful, he might have been dead long ago. Only now did he think of Xianxia as such a wise lord whose destiny had been wasted. He could no longer stand by and do nothing. Jiang Jewel cut off some black threads of hair from himself. He wrapped them around 3 sticks of incense, holding them with both hands in a gesture of offering. Drink Tao. Above the 3 heavens, where the Tao is supreme, among myriad laws, incense reigns foremost. Now, with 3 incense sticks of merit, we respectfully invite the sacred deities of the 4 directions, the restless spirits from the 8 corners, and send word to the 100 immortals of Nanshan Ridge to gather in the land of Qin. To those who harbor wishes, we humbly offer incense. Jiang Jewel lit 3 incense sticks in his hand. Smoke rose up, originally with no wind in the weather. Suddenly, a gust of gloomy wind arose. Jiang Jewel turned around and, with a delighted expression, said, They're here. Then he saw the figure formed by the condensed smoke arriving at the incense burner and continued, Whether passing by as a demon, a spirit, or even as the wandering soul, a piao, please reveal yourself. Jiang Jewel saw the revealed entity, which should be a Een soul. It seems that this little Een soul has no power, but it's quite useful as a messenger. Shortly after, Jiang Jewel and the departing Een soul said, Don't forget about your brother's instructions. Residents of Princeton, Xianxia, came to Jiang Jewel's residence wanting to discuss some matters with Jiang Jewel. He then heard from a servant that Sir Jiang had left early to visit friends outside the city. Xianxia, feeling puzzled, asked, Sir Jiang is someone I fished out of the Jade Splendor River, and it's his first time in the Qin Empire. How come he has old friends? The servant had to truthfully reply, I saw Sir Jiang leaving with many bags when he went out. Xianxia couldn't help but smile bitterly. She could not help but think that the enchantress consort was making things difficult for her everywhere, causing her household servants to either die or flee. Even Grand Tutor Lin Xianfeng was powerless, only reminding her to endure. Anyone could see that she was at the end of her rope. Xianxia lowered her brows and eyes. She gently ran her hand along the edge of the water tank in the courtyard, her mind filled with countless thoughts. She couldn't help but burst into tears. Just at that moment, a familiar voice came from behind Shinsaki. "Young master, are you looking for me?" This voice made Shinsaki shiver and quickly turned to look behind. Behind her, Jiang Jewel stood with a warm smile. Shinsaki rushed to stand in front of Jiang Jewel immediately. She grabbed Jiang Jewel's hands. Her eyes widened in surprise as she asked, "Sir, why are you still here?" Jiang Jewel was suddenly at a loss. "Young master, what do you mean? Am I not here at young master's arrangement? Could it be that young master doesn't want me to stay?" Shinsaki immediately replied, "No, no, no. The gentleman can stay in this courtyard as long as he wants." Jiang Jewel cleared his throat and apologized for scratching his head, saying, "Young master, bystanders might have thought you caught a thief." Shinsaki then realized her overstep, and her cheeks turned red. She quickly let go and said, "I'm sorry." Late at night in the study room, Shinsaki said to Jiang Jewel, "I heard someone say that you went out to visit a friend. I thought you. Did you meet this old friend during this trip?" Jiang Jewel replied vaguely, "The old friend is not in Xianxia City. When he went out, he just asked someone to pass on a message, inviting him to the mansion for a chat." Shinsaki just wondered about Jiang Jewel's old friend. What kind of person is she? She felt the house shaking constantly. Jiang Jewel said lightly, "Young master, don't be afraid. It's just that person who has arrived." Shinsaki nervously asked, "Who? Who has come?" Jiang Jewel chuckled lightly while sipping tea. "Of course. An old friend." Shinsaki sensed that something seemed to be approaching from outside. She then opened the door and looked outside, only to see a snow-white cat sitting at the doorway. Before Shinsaki could react, the cat walked in swaggeringly before Shinsaki could react. Jiang Jewel waved his hand and exclaimed, "Well, well, look who little Een Soul has invited. It seems this trip was not in vain. Long time no see." "You don't have to be so indifferent. My old friend, Little Mountain Lord." Seeing such a cute little mountain lord, Shinsaki is excited to personally go down to prepare cat food for it. After Shinsaki left, the little mountain lord lazily lay on top of the desk. Jiang Jewel softly said, "In the past, I stayed in the southern heavenly mountain range for half a month, but the little mountain lord avoided me. Why did he personally come to Xianxia to help me?" The little mountain lord did not reply to Jiang Jewel. Instead, he disdainfully pushed away the tea poured by Jiang Jewel with the back of his hand. Jiang Jewel shrugged it off and continued, "There were things that I didn't understand at the time, but now it's clear. On that day, when Little Mountain Lord deliberately led me to Jade Splendor River to see the bird with the back mark, was there also an intention to test me?" Upon hearing this, Little Mountain Lord just calmly said, "If you don't say anything, the old turtle won't dare to act rashly. But you've made your words so definitive. If you fall into the water because of it, you can't blame me." After a pause, Little Mountain Lord continued, "I was born with unique eyes. My left eye sees the good and evil in people's hearts, and my right eye glimpses the karmic opportunities. Yet, I can never fully understand you. Would it be excessive for me to probe a little? You have once calculated the divine destiny for many living beings in the southern heavenly mountain range, which can be considered a favor. Now you are sending the little Een Soul to deliver a message seeking help for the southern heavenly mountain range. We will definitely do our utmost to assist." Jiang Jewel looks out the window at the many figures outside. He said gratefully, "I didn't expect so many friends to come. I've troubled everyone. Please stay at the mansion for now." As soon as the words fell, after the many figures outside the window responded and obeyed, they instantly disappeared and dissipated. On the other side, inside Graceful Heart Palace, Yusushian asked, "May I know the whereabouts of that Jiang Jewel?" The maid replied, "Reporting to your highness, it has been confirmed that Sir Jiang is currently at the residence of Prince An. However, the maid failed to enter the courtyard of Sir Jiang, despite attempting to sneak in a few times at night. Yusu was surprised. Has your cultivation level reached the 6th layer that you can't even see his face? The servant trembled in fear. There are several powerful Yaoguai guarding the courtyard, all of them stronger than this servant. Yusu, upon hearing this, thought to herself, it seems that this Sir Jiang is the person the Lord of Heavenly Demons is looking for. However, the other party's cultivation level is unfathomable. She then remembered that the devoted sword slave would arrive in the Qin Empire in a few days, and she would deal with this, Sir Jiang, herself. She need not worry about it anymore, she thought. Yusu then asked, "How is White Jade True Taoist doing?" White Jade True Taoist is the Taoist Master Cui by Qin Saki's side. The maid replied, "He has submitted. He is willing to obey everything the mistress says." Yusu smiled and said, "Very well. It is time to send a big gift to Imperial Princeton." On this day, Emperor Wu of Qin, who had not dealt with court affairs for several years, rarely held a court meeting. Emperor Wu of Qin sat on the dragon throne. He listened to the servant's report. "Your Majesty, recently the entire Xianxia city is filled with the scent of medicine. The withered old trees have sprouted new shoots, various flowers bloom brightly regardless of the season, and strange phenomena occur frequently. It is feared that..." At this moment, the guard outside the door loudly exclaimed, "The queen has arrived!" Yusu is wearing a thin and light green shirt and a long skirt. She gracefully walked in from the hall, followed by a beautiful maid holding a small wooden box in both hands. Imperial Princeton and Grand Tutor Lin Xianfeng were both puzzled as to why the enchantress consort had come here at this time, with a faint sense of unease in their hearts. At this moment, Yusu had already arrived in front of Emperor Wu of Qin. She lowered her eyes and said loudly, "Celestial Dan is complete and will be presented to the king today. Wishing the king a long life that matches the heavens and eternal prosperity." Emperor Wu of Qin looks at the beloved consort. He happily walked down from the long chair and came to Yusu side, helping her up. Yusu picked up the wooden box containing the Dan pill. She handed the pill to Emperor Wu of Qin with a charming voice, saying, "Your Majesty, please take the medicine." Emperor Wu of Qin picked up the Dan pill from the wooden box. He lifted Yusu chin with his left hand and whispered, "The poison given by my beloved Fei is as sweet as candy to me." Emperor Wu of Qin then, in front of all civil and military officials in the court, swallowed the Dan pill. However, the next second, Emperor Wu of Qin suddenly broke out in cold sweat, his veins bulged, and he was unable to speak. Qin Saki below saw this situation. She turned pale and walked forward, just as Qin Saki ordered the guards to capture Yusu. Emperor Wu of Qin whispered softly, "Wait, wait, beloved consort, beloved consort." Yusu heard the sound and walked up to Emperor Wu of Qin. She smiled and asked, "Your Majesty, how is the effect of the divine Dan pill?" Emperor Wu of Qin at this moment only felt a warm stream circulating in his body, surging out endless strength. He then laughed loudly. "I feel refreshed and invigorated." All civil and military officials in the audience were amazed and shocked to see the extraordinary skills of Yusu. They all knelt down and shouted in unison, "Long live the Emperor, the auspicious sign of the country." Qin Saki and Grand Tutor Lin Xianfeng on the side both had slightly grim expressions. They didn't expect Yusu to have truly mastered the Celestial Dan. With this, Yusu power grew stronger. Emperor Wu of Qin felt very pleased. He embraced Yusu and softly said, "This is all thanks to my beloved consort. What reward does my beloved consort desire?" Yusu lowered her eyes and smiled gently, saying, "Your Majesty, you praise me too highly. I dare not ask for anything, but I have something to say. Recently, I, your humble servant, have been praying for blessings for the Qin Empire night after night. When I witnessed the purple star fall to the north, I was certain it was a sign guided by the purple star emperor. The prosperity of our Qin Empire is imminent. Your Majesty should dispatch General Cui to lead the Qin army northward. Capture the Wei Empire in one fell swoop. With this auspicious sign, our Qin army will surely break through the Wei Empire like a piece of rotten wood, and the great Qin will also rise to great prominence in the world. Emperor Wu of Qin had not yet spoken. Qin Saki behind him frowned upon hearing this, and angrily retorted, "Nonsense!" She then bowed and looked towards Emperor Wu of Qin, saying, "Brother Emperor, the military campaign requires a large amount of military funds. However, in recent years, there have been frequent disasters, and the people are starving. In addition, the construction of the imperial harem is consuming a huge amount of resources, and the national treasury is already empty. Under such internal troubles, sending soldiers to fight on empty stomachs will only lead to loss of popular and military support. If the people and the army lose faith, even the foundation of the Qin Empire will be in jeopardy. The decision to go to war must not be taken lightly." Yu Zhixian said softly, "I am just conveying the instructions of the Purple Star Emperor, but Lord Imperial Princeton has doubts. Gentlemen, why don't you also speak up? Do you question the will of the heavens? Or is it that you also want to slander me?" Then all the officials present were well aware that the celestial Dan refined by Yu Zhixian for Emperor Wu of Qin was in favor at the moment. No one dared to speak out against it. They all bowed and said, "We dare not oppose Qin Saki." Seeing the flattering attitudes of all the officials in the court, she was so angry that she couldn't speak for a moment. Emperor Wu of Qin laughed and said, "Regarding the matter of going to war, if it pleases my beloved consort, Qin Saki it shall be." Upon hearing that Emperor Wu of Qin actually agreed to go to war, she wanted to continue advising against it. But before she could speak, Emperor Wu of Qin frowned and said, "Imperial Princeton, you can't keep quiet. I have already made the decision. Tomorrow, I will issue the order for General Cui to immediately attack the Wei Empire." Qin Saki heard Emperor Wu of Qin speaking like this. She knew that it was useless to say anything more at this point. She frowned and looked at the powerful Yu Zhixian. At this moment, Yu Zhixian suddenly spoke. "Just because of the sincerity of His Highness Imperial Princeton, I have also prepared a great gift for him. It's a divine pill. Actually, I refined 2 pills." Yu Zhixian paused. She continued with a slight smile at the corner of her mouth. "By the way, Imperial Princeton doesn't know about refining the elixir? He could have greatly distinguished himself." Qin Saki looked at Celestial Dan in front of him in surprise. For a moment, he didn't know what medicine Yu Zhixian was selling in the gourd. On the other side, at the residence of Princeton, the little mountain lord is currently lying on Jiang Jewel's legs, leisurely basking in the sun. Suddenly, a whiff of medicinal fragrance wafted over. Jiang Jewel's nostrils flared, looking puzzled as he asked, "What's that smell? It's so fragrant." While the little mountain lord on his leg, with narrowed pupils, in a deep voice said, "Such a strong blood-killing qi." Jiang Jewel asked softly, "Isn't this the sin of medicine? Why does Little Mountain Lord say it's blood-killing qi?" Little Mountain Lord didn't explain, just said, "See it with your own eyes. The young lady has arrived." The words have just fallen. Just saw Qin Saki holding a wooden box in his hands from a distance, and walking towards this side anxiously. Jiang Jewel quickly stood up and asked, "Why is young master flustered?" Qin Saki explained, "Today, the enchantress consort presented this item to me. I find it suspicious and have specially come to ask for Mister's guidance." Jiang Jewel looked at the Dan pill in the box. His facial expression changed suddenly. He said softly, "Young master, you better take a look yourself." Jiang Jewel then pointed with a finger, and the originally invisible thing gradually revealed itself in front of Qin Saki, only to see on top of the bright red Dan pill, faces began to appear one by one. Faintly, countless voices were heard. "Imperial Princeton, help us! Young master, avenge us! Save me! Save me!" Qin Saki looked at the pale faces in front of him. For a moment, he did not notice the object under his feet and collapsed to the ground. Jiang Jewel, upon seeing this, immediately reached out to dispel that In's soul. Then he helped up Xianxia and said softly, "Just now those were illusory images of lost souls trapped in this damned pill, unable to truly harm anyone. Young master, do not be afraid." Jiang Jewel looked towards the damned pill beside him and continued, "Mortals who consume this damned pill can circulate their qi and blood, increase their lifespan, and never suffer from illness or calamity again. However, the refining process of this damned pill requires the sacrifice of a living person, with their 7 souls and 6 essences cast into the alchemical furnace, and their internal organs turned into medicinal residue." Upon hearing Jiang Jewel's explanation, Xianxia clutched herself tightly, trembling all over, and said, "I recognize them. The souls just now, many of them used to be servants in my mansion, and some were commoners who lost their homes in disasters. I have helped them before. I'm sorry, I was not able to protect you," Xianxia said as she burst into tears. Upon seeing this, Jiang Jewel sighed heavily. He gently wiped away the tears on Xianxia's face and said, "Silly girl, shedding tears alone will not save your people." Upon hearing this, Xianxia was startled. Whispering in her mouth, My people," Jiang Jewel replied lightly. I wonder how a female imperial prince like you, who selects talents and governs well, would fare if the Qin Empire no longer existed?" After a moment of silence, Xianxia's gaze became resolute, her hands clenched into fists. For the sake of her own people, she was willing to fight with all her might. The morning of the second day, Xianxia stood outside Jiang Jewel with slightly red cheeks, just as she hesitated in her heart. Jiang Jewel called out from behind, "Young master, is that you?" Xianxia was startled by the sudden voice and froze in place. She turned around nervously. She handed the item to Jiang Jewel and said, "Sir, please take this." Jiang Jewel looked puzzled and said to Xianxia, "Is this new clothes?" Xianxia said hesitantly, "Last time I saw you coming back, it seemed like your clothes were torn, so I had a tailor make a Jiang Jewel for you." Taking the clothes, he smiled and said, "Thank you very much, young master." After a long silence, Jiang Jewel sighed softly and asked, "Young master, are you going to the palace? Do you have confidence in this trip?" Xianxia lowered his eyebrows and replied faintly, "I am not confident, but for the people of Qin Empire, I am willing to take a risk." Jiang Jewel knew that Xianxia had made up his mind and did not persuade him further. Instead, he said, "Understood. Since it's the case, I won't advise any further. Before we part ways, I have one last thing to remind you. If young master encounters an unsolvable situation, silently recite in your heart the true lord of the grand void from the celestial realm of purple firmament. Young master, remember this." Xianxia nodded slightly upon hearing these words. She then left gracefully. In the back garden of the palace, Emperor Wu of Qin dreamed of the late emperor sitting on the dragon throne, conducting an examination on Emperor Wu of Qin's knowledge of governing the country. Emperor Wu of Qin always stumbled over his words when facing the late emperor's questions. He couldn't explain the reasons. He just fearfully lowered his head deeply. The former emperor had a stern face, ready to reprimand Emperor Wu of Qin. The young Xianxia, however, easily stated the answer. The former emperor was very pleased with Xianxia's answer and praised his exceptional talent and intelligence. Just sighed and lamented the pity that Xianxia is a woman. The former emperor then looked down at the trembling Emperor Wu of Qin kneeling below. The former emperor angrily rebuked, "You simply have no talent for governing the country." Emperor Wu of Qin woke up from his dream, his face covered in cold sweat, and asked the eunuch beside him, Did I fall asleep? I must not miss the dance performance by my beloved concubine." The eunuch leaned forward and replied, "Your Majesty, rest assured, the dance performance has not started yet, but I have important news to report." After a pause, the eunuch whispered with a face full of cold sweat, "Your Majesty, the front line is retreating steadily due to shortage of provisions, and there have been desertions among the soldiers. General Cui is on the verge of collapse. When Emperor Wu of Qin heard this, he was stunned and said, "Desertions among the soldiers? How is that possible?" Before the eunuch could respond, Yu Zhixian, who had approached unnoticed, slapped the eunuch in the face and angrily scolded, "You worthless thing! Spouting nonsense here! Guards! Drag this useless eunuch away and behead him." Yu Zhixian held Emperor Wu of Qin's hand and smiled charmingly, saying, "Your Majesty, why are you still hesitating? The song and dance performance is about to begin. The dancers this time are all stunning beauties." Upon hearing this, Emperor Wu of Qin did not inquire further, but followed Yu Zhixian as they walked outside. At this moment, another eunuch came before Emperor Wu of Qin, trembling, and said, "Reporting to your Majesty, Imperial Prince in Xianxia and Lord Lin Xianfeng have intruded into the harem. I couldn't stop them, The eunuch swallowed nervously, unable to continue. Just as Emperor Wu of Qin was about to inquire further. Just then, Xianxia, Lin Xianfeng, and the others all entered wearing mourning attire. Shortly after, several people respectfully knelt in front of Emperor Wu of Qin. Emperor Wu of Qin looked at Xianxia and the others in front of him, not angry but smiling, and said, "Good, good, good. Are you wearing mourning attire because you want to curse me to die?" Xianxia replied with a cupped hand gesture, "We are wearing mourning attire for the unjust deaths of the people of the Qin Empire, and wearing mourning for the imminent downfall of the country." Emperor Wu of Qin sneered in reply, "I want to hear how this imminent downfall of the country is supposed to happen." Xianxia looked at Yu Zhixian next to him and said angrily, "Enchantress consort Yu Zhixian treats human lives as trivial by practicing live person damn refining, not only engaging in debauchery in the harem, but also spreading deceitful words, inciting wars. She should be immediately thrown into the celestial prison." Before Emperor Wu of Qin could speak, Xianxia and the others spoke in unison. "If Enchantress consort is not removed, we officials ask to resign and return home without asking about state affairs." Emperor Wu of Qin, hearing the resolute attitude of Xianxia and the others, couldn't help but be stunned and said angrily, "Is this how it is? Are you trying to force me out of the palace?"